Hi, this is Usha. Welcome to Rathod Science classes. Today in this lecture, we are going to see the current affairs of 26th September 2021. In this lecture, we are going to discuss 10 topics which are very much relevant to UPSC. So now let us try to see some introduction regarding which are the topics we are going to discuss in this lecture. So first topic is about our Prime Minister and UNGA. So our Prime Minister gave some important statements regarding India in United Nations General Assembly. We are going to discuss that. That will be important from our international relations point of view, which comes under GS paper 2. And the next topic we are going to discuss about this cyclone Gulab. Here Odisha government mainly warned regarding this cyclone Gulab. So by this Sunday evening, by today evening, it is going to hit the coast of Odisha and as well as Andhra Pradesh. So this is the thing which mainly said, and we are going to see what are these cyclones. So this will be important from our geography point of view, which comes under GS paper 1. And next topic is about FDI and FII. Yesterday I asked question regarding what is FDI and what is FII and what is the difference. Many students comment like you have to discuss that. So I plan to discuss this topic here. That will be important from economy, which comes under our GS paper 3. And next topic we are going to discuss, it is about Quad. So actually there are some important agenda, the important things which mainly discussed in this Quad. So actually they mainly focused on Afghanistan. So we are going to discuss that thing. That is important from our international relations. And next one is Cooperative Society Act will be amended soon, says our Amit Shah. So here we need to focus on this, what is this Cooperative Society Act and why we need amendments. And recently we came up with the Ministry of Cooperation also. So we are going to discuss that. That will be important from our polity, which comes under GS paper 2. And next topic, it is about one important scheme, that is National Mission on Cultural Mapping. So this topic is important from our governance point of view, which comes under our GS paper 2. And next topic, it is about Mars. So why Mars? Because recently one study which mainly conducted to know whether the presence of water is seen on this Mars or not. So this article mainly talking about that highlights of the study. So that will be important from our science and technology. Next topic we are going to discuss, it is about September rainfall. So actually what happened from last some years, we are seeing there is excessive rainfall, especially in the month of September. So here we are going to analyze our data and we are going to see what are the reasons for increasing of September rainfall. So this will be important from our geography. So you can add this topic under our monsoon topic. And next topic is about bipolar disease. So this bipolar disease is one of a non-communicable disease, which is mainly, I can say it is like a one neurological disorder. So here why this bipolar disease is in news, because recently one study said that, so if you are taking a proper diet, so this will be helpful for even your controlling of your mood swings, because when any person who is under stress, and even if there is anything which is happening wrong, we will undergo some mood, not only you, not only me, and each and every person will have some mood swings. So to control that mood swings, nutrition plays an important role. So mainly I want to focus here to avoid your mood swings. So please take proper diet, proper nutrition. So that will be important from our science and technology, which comes under GS paper 3. And next topic is about primates. So actually what happened, these primates are endangered animals. So primates include mainly chimpanzees, orangutans, that family, that group of animals which mainly comes under this primates. So now these primates are facing extinction, right? So the number of these primates are decreasing. So what might be the reason? Reason might be because of some infections, pests, etc. So that is the thing which mainly talked in this article. So this will be important again from our science and technology, which comes in the GS paper 3. And even we can talk about this topic under our environment and ecology, which comes under GS paper 3 itself. So these are some important topics we are going to discuss in this lecture. So let's get started, and now let us see the first topic. So title says that India is the mother of all democracies. Our Prime Minister says at United Nations General Assembly. In this United Nations General Assembly, our Prime Minister mainly said that mother tongue, so mother of all the democracies. So India, it is the mother. India is mother of all democracies. So this topic will be important, as I said earlier, under international relations, which mainly comes under GS paper 2. Let us try to understand this. So what is the context, why it is in news? Our Prime Minister gave a statement like, so India is mother of all democracies. Why? Our Prime Minister launched a defense of the state of democracy in India at United Nations General Assembly. During this launching event, our Prime Minister said India is mother of all democracies. If you see further details, it mainly says that in a wide ranging of address, our Prime Minister spoke about even climate change, poverty alleviation, even about developments in Afghanistan and United Nations Security Council reforms. So already we discussed about this United Nations Security Council reforms. So we are mainly talking about reforms. We need reforms in this United Nations Security Council. As you all know, here United Nations Security Council mainly includes 15 members. So out of these 15 members, 5 are P5 permanent members and 10 are non-permanent members, and these non-permanent members will have tenure of about 2 years. So what happened now, India along with other countries, like we form one club, okay, that is G4 countries, and these 4 countries, they are mainly asking for reforms in this United Nations Security Council. So here in this context, in this UNGA, United Nations General Assembly meet, so our Prime Minister also focused on this climate change, need of poverty alleviation. So as you know that recent Pew Research report, which mainly said that there will be increase in the poverty and many people, they are going to enter into below poverty line, and the middle class people, they are going to increase due to impact of this COVID-19. So now not only India but also other countries, all other countries, they need to fight against this poverty, and they need to also focus on developments in Afghanistan. So why Afghanistan? So Afghanistan now it is under control of Taliban, and Taliban declared that they are going to come up with interim government. So one cause of concern regarding this interim government is, so the members who are under the list of United Nations Security Council terrorist group list, so people who are listed under that thing, so they are mainly forming, and even other terrorist organizations like Haqqani group also having the members in this interim government. So it is a cause of concern not only for India, almost for all the countries here. So even China also condemned that interim government, right? And here they also talked about United Nations Security Council reform, and let me know in comment box, so what are the reforms we are mainly going to expect in this, or we are mainly fighting for this United Nations Security Council reforms. So let me know in comment box. So here the first thing here is, so wide range of topics which mainly addressed by our Prime Minister regarding climate change. There are many reports which are coming in the newspaper, and daily we are reading those newspaper reports, like there is increasing of climate change, increasing of global warming, etc. So in this context, so today we are going to discuss one topic, like there is increasing of September rainfall. So here September rainfall means it will comes under the monsoon season, right? So in monsoon season in India, it is normally called as rainy season. So this monsoon means we can see there is seasonal reversal of winds. So now what happened by by September 1, there should be withdrawal of monsoons that will be seen, and by the month of October there will be complete withdrawal of this monsoon will be seen over India. But what happened due to this increase of global temperature or global warming, so withdrawal of this monsoon which is being delayed from 1st September till 17th September last year. So because of this, there is increasing of rainfall that is seen in this September month. So this is the thing we are going to discuss that. So it is one example I want to say why we need to talk about this climate change and why this climate change is important now. So these are the wide range of things which mainly addressed. And next one is, our Prime Minister also took aim at Pakistan and as well as China respectively, with references to support to terror groups and even violating the international rules based order. So here our Prime Minister also focused on this Pakistan and China, and because these Pakistan and China, they are mainly supporting to terror groups, and even if you are talking about especially China, which is mainly violating the international rules based order. So for example, if you are talking about South China Sea region, so which are the countries which are sharing boundary with the South China Sea, and even the other countries which are sharing continental boundary or continental boundary with this China and even maritime boundary. So with all those countries, China, it is having a dispute. So mainly it is not following this UNCLOS, United Nations Law of Convention of Seas. Okay, so it is one of cause of concern, and there is also increasing of aggressiveness of China that is seen, and there is also increasing of Chinese presence in Indo-Pacific region. It also came up with the concept like string of pearls, etc. So these are of some cause of concerns. And next one is, India had entered its 75th year of independence but had democratic traditions for thousands of years. So our Prime Minister also made a statement like India entered 75th year of independence, but if you are talking about democratic traditions, they are not just for 75 years but they are from thousands of years. So he also focused that our diversity. So if you're talking about diversity, I think in 2016 GS paper 2 there was one question regarding. So can you explain the different types of diversity in India? So in that diversity we can talk about linguistic diversity, we can talk about cultural diversity, so and so, right? So as you all know, India is a very diverse nation. So we are having, even though we are having diversity, for example, different religions people are present, different languages that we can speak, that we are speaking, and even we are having different cultural diversity. We are having Muslims, Christians and Hindus and even other religious groups like Jains, Buddhists, and even small amount of Parsis are present in India. So even though we are having huge diversity, but we are having a symbol. We are one of a symbol of our strong democracy. So we are having dozens of languages and hundreds of dialects. They are examples of this vibrant democracy. So this is a statement which is given by our Prime Minister, and you can use this statement as it is whenever you are writing your mains and even essay. So this is just of this topic, and you have to refer some facts regarding this United Nations General Assembly. Okay, so it is your work. And now let us move on to next topic. Title says Odisha government alert over cyclone Gulab. So if you are talking about cyclones, here we are having Bay of Bengal. Here towards our west side we are having Arabian Sea. So cyclones are nothing but we can say the storms, which is mainly happening in this Bay of Bengal, Arabian Sea, and finally they will hit this eastern coast or western coast. So here this cyclone Gulab, it is from Bay of Bengal side. So this is one important thing that you need to remember. And recently that is Indian coast mainly hit by super cyclones like Cyclone Taukte, Cyclone Yas, Cyclone Umphan. And here we are going to hit by this cyclone Gulab also, and it is going to hit Odisha and as well as Andhra Pradesh coast. So this topic will be important from GS paper 1 under geography. So now let us try to see the context. If you see context, it mainly says that Odisha government on Saturday sounded a warning for cyclone storm Gulab. So Odisha government came up with a warning signal regarding this cyclonic storm Gulab. So name of this cyclone here is Gulab. So here this cyclone Gulab, it is mainly expected to cross the coast between southern part of Odisha and as well as northern part of Andhra Pradesh. And they are expecting the wind speeds of about 75 to 85 kmph by this Sunday. And if you're talking about details, it mainly says that the associated heavy rain is likely cause landslip and as well as floods. So whenever cyclones are hitting, that will lead to the winds which will move with a very high speed, and even that will lead to intense rainfall. So because of intense rainfall, that will lead to floods, and even because of soilification, that means saturation of soil particles with water, that will lead to even landslip in this region. So according to Indian Meteorological Department, that is IMD informed that the National Crisis Management Committee, the cyclone was likely to hit Srikakulam, Vijayanagaram, Visakhapatnam districts of Andhra Pradesh, and the districts of Odisha like Ganjam and Gajapati districts of Odisha. So here this cyclone storm may hit. So now let us try to talk about some facts regarding what are these cyclones. So if you are talking about cyclones, we have both tropical and as well as temperate cyclone. So whenever the cyclone which is happening between this tropical region, that is 0 to 30 degrees north and 0 to 30 degrees south, that is between 30 degrees north to 30 degrees south, that cyclones will comes under this tropical cyclones. Okay, so beyond this 30 degrees north and 30 degrees south, that will comes under this temperate cyclones. So if you are talking about this tropical cyclones are nothing but, I can say in a simple language, like they are violent storms, and these storms mainly originate over oceans in the tropical areas, and finally they will move towards the coastal regions. But whenever these cyclonic storms are moving towards coast, that will lead to violent winds, and that will lead to heavy rainfall and even storm surges. That will lead to loss for both property and as well as life, and they will be leading to floods. So because of this, sometimes there will be disruption in the power lines and as well as telephone lines or telecommunication lines. So because of this, what happened, people, they will face some problem, like they will not get even food. Okay, because of water which will be coming into their house, and their houses will be filled by this flooded water, and in this flooded water their valuable things, they will be also carried away, right? So if you see about the tropical cyclones, they are one of the most devastating natural calamities in the world, and these tropical cyclones mainly originate and they intensify over warm tropical oceans. And here we need to know about what are the conditions that are very much necessary for the formation and for intensification of these tropical storms. So there are about 4 to 5 points that you need to remember, and this will be very important from your prelims point of view. So if you're talking about what are the favorable conditions, so first one is we need a large sea surface, and the temperature of that sea surface should be higher than 27 degrees centigrade. So what is the required temperature on the sea surface? That is 27 degrees centigrade, and there is a need of presence of Coriolis force. So what is this Coriolis force? As we know that Earth it is not stable, right? So Earth will be move around itself. So Earth will rotate itself, right? So because of this rotation, we will get day and nights. So whenever Earth which is rotating from west towards east, so for example, let us take one example, like if there is any ball, let us take a ball, let us try to pour some water on the ball, so it will come and it will come down. So if you are rotating that ball and if you try to pour water, it will be moving like this, there is deflection. So whenever Earth is rotating here, so whenever any moving object is going, that will be not follow its path. So whenever there is rotation of Earth is happening, so there will be some influence of this rotation on the movement or the direction. So that is called as Coriolis force. So if you are talking about in northern hemisphere and if you are talking about southern hemisphere, so the deflection that is seen towards right. Okay. So this is the thing that you can see here. So please see about this Coriolis force and deflection that is seen in north and as well as in the south. So if you see, because of this Coriolis force, whenever the storms are moving, so it will go in an anti-clockwise direction. Okay. So we can see anti-clockwise direction movement here in northern hemisphere, and southern hemisphere we can see clockwise movement. So why there is anti-clockwise movement and as well as clockwise movement here? Because whenever we see low pressure area which is created, so because of high temperature on the sea surface, we can see there will be the low pressure area it is created. So because of this low pressure area which is created, so air will try to move up. Okay, air becomes warm and it will move up. So whenever air it is moving up, whenever this low pressure area is created, here what happened? Here winds from high pressure it will come and it will try to occupy, right? So here there is a deflection like this. So because of this, winds mainly move in the anti-clockwise in this cyclones, especially in northern hemisphere. So this is about this role of Coriolis force, and please try to open your NCERT, then you will get some clarity regarding this topic. And next one here is this is about the cyclones, and these cyclones will cause heavy damage to the coastal areas because of wind which is mainly blown with its of high speed, and even intense rainfall, floods we can see like that. So here you need to know about naming patterns. So who will give this name like Umfan, like Yas, like Tokte, and like Gulab? So you have to know that, and let me know in comment box regarding the naming of the cyclones. Who gave this name Gulab? Okay, let me know in comment box. And now let us try to see next topic, that is about FDI and FII. So it is about yesterday's topic, not today's topic. So now let us try to understand what is the meaning of FDI. FDI stands for foreign direct investment. So it is foreign direct investment. So what is this FDI actually means? FDI is nothing but whenever we are getting investments from the foreign countries in already existing company or of other nations by setting up a subsidiary. For example, if there is any company here, so in this company so and so person who is coming and investing in this company, this person, he belongs to other country. So in country 1 we are having this company, and person from country 2 mainly investing in this company. That is called as foreign direct investment. For example, if you take USA is the second country and India is the first country. So whenever USA person who is investing in India's company, for example, let us take Reliance Jio, or by setting up a subsidiary of USA based company in India, in both the ways India is getting foreign direct investment. For example, this person, so and so person who is directly investing in this Reliance Jio, or if so and so person who is coming up with setting up of subsidiary company, that is called as foreign direct investment. So if you are talking about some facts regarding this foreign direct investment, the motive of an investor, it is mainly to gain effective power, an enterprise or significant degree of influence and control over the company. So if any person who is investing in the company here, so there will be the percentage will be given, okay. So the percentage of the person will be there. So because of this, whenever the person who is having the percentage of shares in so and so company, then there is a influence of that person that is seen on that company. So whenever there is a board of director meeting is happening, so this person's views and intentions also taken into consideration. So how much percentage? At least that person should invest 10% of equity ownership. So now let us try to see why we need this FDI. So what is the significance? What will be the advantages? So if we are talking about need of this FDI which mainly helps to meet the capital need of the country, and even it will be very much helpful to serve as an important source to fulfill the gap between income and as well as savings of that company. So for example, if I need 100 rupees to my company, let us take I have a company, I need 100 rupees, but I am having only 50 rupees, but I am in a shortage of 50 rupees. So if I go to bank also, if I do not have any documents, and if bank which is not giving loan, means I need to go for bringing of money based on interest, that will be debt to me, so I need to pay interest, right? But I did not have that capability to bring outside the market and to pay interest of higher rate. So in this way, if at all any company which is coming, or any person who is interested to invest in my company, for example, let us take 50 rupees that is given by so and so person. So what will be the share? Share will be 50:50. That means whenever if my company want to take any decisions here, so we both need to take the decisions. For example, let us take and let us divide this 50 into 4 persons, like 12.5, 12.5, 12.5 and 12.5. So there are 4 investors, right? So 4 people, they invested in my company and they gave 12.5 rupees each. That means here whenever we are going for board of director meetings regarding what are the next steps and what can be the changes, like that, whenever there is a meeting here, so this person will have some influence on the decisions of that company. So this is nothing but this foreign direct investment. So also one important thing is, when is the board of director meeting is happening, so if there is any need for technological development, if this person from USA or if this person from another country, he can also bring the best practices from their country towards India. And there will be also technology upgradation, and even there will be efficient exploitation of natural resources along with the development of basic infrastructure that is done in India. And it is also responsible for even balance of payment conditions, because whenever this person who is investing in my company, he will be investing in dollars. So I need to take that dollars to RBI and I need to convert that dollars into rupee to invest here, right? So in this way, whenever we are facing shortage of this dollars or foreign currency, so this FDI will also very much helpful. Because if you are talking about this FDI, so we are having two routes, that is automatic route and as well as approval route. Automatic route means there is no need of taking the permission of government, but through approval route they need to take the permission from the government, right? And I can say this FDI, it is one of the great source of better technology, management, marketing networks, and as well as it offers even competition in the market. And now let us try to see the factors. So if you see the factors, first important thing that you need to note here is, so whenever the country, recipient country means which is attracting this FDI, so it need to have some stable policies, and these policies, they need to favor this foreign direct investment. For example, let us take about this recent telecom sector reforms. In this recent telecom sector reforms we discussed like, yes, by through automatic route FDI in this telecom sector which increased to 100%, but earlier it was 49%. So whenever this automatic route of this FDI mainly increased to 100% means many investors, they will be interested to come and to invest in India. So in this way, whatever the policies which are present in this country to attract this FDI, they need to come up with stable policies, and so policies, they need to favor this foreign investment. And next one is, if it offers favorable economic factors like interest, loan, subsidies. So we need to, that is the government need to offer some interest, loan, subsidies, etc. So in this way it will also benefit this FDI. And next one is, recipient countries must have the removal of restrictions. So we need to remove restrictions. And next one is, foreign investors, they must be given tax exemptions as well. And they should be available of cheap and skilled labor. So if they are coming and investing and setting up of some residuary companies means they need the labor, right? So that country need to provide cheap and as well as skilled labor as well. So these are the some important factors regarding this FDI. And now let us move on to what is this FII. FII mainly stands for Foreign Institutional Investment. So FII mainly stands for Foreign Institutional Investment. So FII mainly refers to a group of investors who mainly helps to bring FPI, foreign portfolio investment, in the country. So in this way it will be helpful mainly for performance. So if you are talking about what is this FII, so in FII where can we invest? For example, in pension funds, mutual funds, in investment trust, and insurance or research companies, endowment funds, trustees and banks. So in these areas we can invest this FII. So why we need this? So this will be helpful mainly to increase inflow of foreign capital into the country, and it will also encourage the portfolio capital inflow. So in this way it will provide some finance to the Indian enterprises. So it will be also helpful for building of currency reserves in India as well. Okay, so now let us try to see what's the difference between this FDI and FII. So if you are talking about FDI, it is a long-term investment. If I am investing in so and so company means I cannot take my investment within 6 months or 7 months, but it is a long-term investment. But FII, it is a short-term investment. So because of this, it is also called as hot money. So whenever they want to leave, they can leave. So whenever we are getting high amounts of FDI means it is good for country, but not FII. And investment, it is mainly done in physical assets, but here it is through financial asset. For example, if you see here, FDI mainly invested in some industries or any individual companies, etc. But FII mainly done in funds, mutual funds, pension funds, insurance, etc. And next one is the important aim of this FDI is to increase enterprise capacity or productivity or change management control. And here if you are talking about this FDI, it will also lead to technological transfer and even access to the market and management inputs, etc. But here FII mainly talks or results about just capital flow, that is revenue to countries. And FDI mainly flows in primary market, but FII mainly talks about the secondary market. If you are talking about FDI, entry is difficult and as well as exit is difficult, but FII entry and exit are very much easy than compared to that of this FDI. So FDI is eligible for profit of the companies, but FII is eligible just for capital gain of company. They will get some capital, that's it. So here FDI will have direct impact on employment of labor and even wages. So if any company which is coming and which is setting up any subsidiary here, means it will require the labor, it will require the people who have to work here. So it will also lead to some employment generation, but here FII will not have any impact on employment or labor, etc. So these are the some important differences between FDI and FII. And now let us move on to next topic. It is about Cooperative Society Act. Cooperative Society Act will be amended soon, says Amit Shah. So this article mainly talking about this Cooperative Society Act. So if you want to know the brief background what is happening in this cooperative society here is, so recently Ministry of Cooperatives mainly came into picture. So here because of this, here we are going to amend, that is the Government of India which is going to amend this Cooperative Society Act. So this article will be important regarding GS paper 2 under polity. Now let us try to see context. If you see context, it mainly says that Union Home and Cooperation Minister, it is our Amit Shah. He said that Centre will soon bring some amendments to Multi-State Cooperative Society Act. So for this Multi-State Cooperative Society Act, our Government of India going to come up with some amendments and even some new policy for cooperative societies. And now let us try to see the details. If you see details, it mainly says that cooperatives, they are mainly comes under state subject. So whenever cooperative is coming under the state subject, whenever the central government which is coming up with amendments here, so it will also create some tussle between center and the state, right? So here cooperatives, they are mainly coming under the state subject, so could be responded to in legal terms, but newly created ministry will work in tandem with the states and there will be no friction. So in this context, our minister mainly said that yes, cooperative will come under the state subject, but recently we came up with this new Ministry of Cooperation. So here this ministry that will work along with the states, and they are expecting that there will be no friction that can be seen between the center and the state. And next one is cash-rich cooperatives in many states. They are mainly controlled by opposition parties, for example, Congress party, etc. So this is a statement which is given by our minister. And the cooperatives mainly decide this political fortunes in the states. For example, Maharashtra, Kerala, Gujarat, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Madhya Pradesh and this West Bengal. So in these states, cooperatives mainly decides the political fortunes of the states. So if you are talking about background, our minister said that due to formation of this Ministry of Cooperation, so it mainly announced on July 5th, and Home Minister Amit Shah was allocated the portfolio during this cabinet expansion. He gave this portfolio, okay. So for this Ministry of Home Affairs, he is Amit Shah, right? So this Amit Shah, he also given the responsibility of this Ministry of Cooperation on July 5th. Centre was also planning to come up with amendments to primary agriculture credit society laws also. So these are the some important details after everything is given. Okay, after everything is done, we are going to discuss editorials which will appear on this topic for sure. So if you are talking about background, it mainly says that recently a separate Ministry of Cooperation has been created by our central government. So why? Mainly after realizing the vision of Sahakar Se Samriddhi, that means prosperity through cooperation, and to give a new push to this cooperative movement in India. So our government of India came up with this separate ministry, that is Ministry of Cooperation. And if you are talking about what is significance, so what is the importance of this ministry? So first and the foremost thing here is, so this ministry will provide a separate administrative, legal and even policy framework. So this framework, that is a separate administration, legal and policy framework, that will be mainly helpful for strengthening of the cooperative movement in the country. And here this is also very much helpful for deepening of cooperatives as a true people based movement. And next one is, it will be also helpful to work to streamline process for ease of doing business for cooperatives, and also it will be very much helpful to enable development of multi-state cooperative societies. And now let us move on to one interesting topic, that is about the constitutional provisions. So you have to know these constitutional provisions, because whenever you have to write answer regarding polity, so one thing please keep in your mind, in introduction you need to start with constitutional provisions. So if you are writing about the answer regarding this cooperative societies, means you need to write that constitutional provisions like 97th Constitutional Amendment Act, or the articles which are present in our constitution which is regarding this cooperative societies, or any schedule or any part, right? So you have to start the answer with your constitutional provisions, especially for answers of polity. If you are talking about this constitutional provisions which are related to this cooperative societies, so our constitution, we came up with 97th Constitutional Amendment Act. So which Constitutional Amendment Act which mainly talks about this this cooperative societies? That is 97th Constitutional Amendment Act of 2011, which mainly added a new part, that is 9B, after this part 9A, which mainly talks about municipalities regarding the cooperatives working in India. So here 97th Constitutional Amendment Act, which mainly added part 9B, which mainly talks about this cooperative societies, and the word cooperatives was added after unions and associations in article 19(1) subclass 3, which mainly comes under part 3. Part 3 is nothing but our fundamental rights, and this mainly enables all the citizens to form cooperatives by giving in a status of fundamental right of citizens. And next important one is a new article, that is article 43B, which mainly added to our DPSP, Directive Principle of State Policy. So in which part this DPSP comes? So please let me know in comment box. Okay. So here fundamental rights mainly comes under part 3 of our Indian Constitution, and DPSP, Directive Principles of State Policy, which comes under which part? So let me know in comment box. And if you see in this DPSP one article, that is article 43B, which mainly talks about the promotion of this cooperative societies. So these are the three important constitutional provisions that you need to remember regarding this cooperative societies. And now let us move on to the next topic. Title says Quad to counter Afghan origin terror. It is talking about Afghan origin terror. So which group? That is Quad. Quad mainly stands for Quadrilateral Security Dialogue. So it is mainly formed between 4 membered countries. So membered countries include India, USA, Japan and our Australia. So this article will be important from our international relations, which mainly comes under this GS paper 2. And now let us try to talk about this topic. So first let us try to see the context. So context says that from detailing the commitments on COVID-19 vaccine and climate to launch a new infrastructure partnership, so our Quad leaders summit, they also met recently. So in this recent meet, they mainly talked about some important agenda or some important topics. So now let us try to see what are the topics which mainly talked in this meet. So the first one is this group declared new joint positions in the region. For example, they need to coordinate diplomatically in Afghanistan. So first thing they mainly talked that regarding Afghanistan. So regarding Afghanistan, so all these members, they need to coordinate and they need to diplomatically deal with this Afghanistan. And also they declared that they would closely coordinate their diplomatic, economic and human right policies towards Afghanistan, and they mainly focusing to counter terrorism, and even they need to provide some humanitarian cooperation in accordance with this United Nations Security Council resolution, that is 2593. So as the chairmanship of India in this United Nations Security Council, so India mainly passed this resolution. So this resolution mainly regarding Afghanistan. So this resolution mainly calls for country not to be used as a base to nurture terrorism. And in this context, these Quad countries mainly said that Afghan territory should not be used to threaten or to attack any country, or Afghanistan should not give shelter or should not train terrorists. So mainly to control this, the finance terrorist acts, and as well as they need to reiterate some important thing regarding combating of terrorism in Afghanistan. So these are some important things which mainly said in this Quad meet. And next one is one important thing which mainly said here is we denounce, that is the Quad members also denounce the use of terrorist proxies and emphasize the importance of denying this logistical, financial and military support to terrorist groups as well. And next one is Quad also declared that the support for this European Union September 2021 Indo-Pacific strategy. So in this Indo-Pacific strategy also here these Quad countries, they are going to support this. And next one is Quad also came up with one important thing here is Quad called on North Korea. So North Korea to engage in substantive dialogue. Okay, mainly here Quad want to end violence in Myanmar. So here this Quad country declared its support for early restoration of democracy, especially in the Myanmar. So Myanmar is under control of military now, right? So military coup that happened in Myanmar, and most of the political leaders, they were mainly kept under the jail. So here these four countries declared that they are going to support early restoration of democracy in Myanmar, and they are also focusing to release all political prisoners or all political detainees including foreigners in Myanmar. And regarding climate, they also made one statement like, so Quad countries, they are mainly intent to update and as well as to communicate ambitious nationally determined contributions before this COP26 meeting that is going to be held in Glasgow. And next one is these countries, they said that they will work with the intent to get net zero emissions preferably by 2050. And India has not yet made a formal commitments regarding this COP26 or committed to achieve this net zero by 2050. It is one of cause of concern in this meet. And next one is the Quad also welcomed the India's resumption of this vaccine export for other countries. We already discussed about this topic, right? And one important thing here is this Quad have also launched one new infrastructure partnership. So you have to remember this. So Quad came up with this new infrastructure partnership, so which mainly involves mapping of regions' infrastructure needs and even provide some technical assistance and evaluation of tools for the projects. So based on infrastructure, so what's the need of infrastructure there? So they are going to come up with a new infrastructure partnership with these four countries. And next one is here, these four countries, these four members of this Quad, they would work with Blue Dot Network. So here you can get a one prelims question like, so Blue Dot Network is seen in news. So what it is related to? You can get options like cyber security or Bitcoin, so and so. So this Blue Dot Network, it is a US, Australia and Japan private sector led infrastructure. So here under this Blue Dot Network, they are mainly trying to counter this Chinese Belt and Road Initiative. And also other initiatives mainly include cooperation regarding transparent 5G technology, and beyond this 5G network, cyberspace and as well as space. So these are some important things which are mainly discussed in this Quad meet. And now let us try to move on to some basic facts regarding this Quad. So if you are talking about this Quad, it is a 4-nation alliance. So which are the 4 members? India, Australia, Japan and USA. And this mainly established in year 2007, and you have to remember this year. And it is often made dubbed as Asian or mini NATO. So it is mainly dubbed as Asian or mini NATO, and it is mainly viewed to counter the to counterbalance of China's military and as well as economic expansion. And in 2020, US-China Economic and Security Review Commission, which mainly says that Chinese growing power projection along Indian Ocean rim with military or economic activities in countries like Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Maldives, Myanmar and Bangladesh. So recently in Myanmar, they came up with one railway network, and even in the Bangladesh, there is increasing of infrastructure projects by China. If you are talking about Maldives, it is also coming up with different development of ports, and even in Sri Lanka, Hambantota port, and as well as we lost one trade. We lost one. How can I say, that is a west terminal coast thing. Okay, so we lost that development project, and that is given to again China by Sri Lanka. So because of this, what happened in this Indian Ocean region, China is mainly trying to increase their influence both militarily and as well as both economically. So these are some important things that you need to remember. And now let us move on to next topic. Title says trail run of cultural mapping of 75 villages soon. So this article mainly talking about one important scheme, that is National Mission on Cultural Mapping. So this will be important under schemes, policies and programs of India, which comes under GS paper 2. Actually this scheme was introduced in year 2017. You have to remember this. And now let us move on to context. If you say context, it mainly says that National Mission on Cultural Mapping. National Mission on Cultural Mapping has now been handed over to Indira Gandhi National Center for Arts. So now this mission has been handed over to Indira Gandhi National Center for Arts, which is mainly gearing up to trail run of about 75 villages in October. If you see details, our Culture Ministry had approved this mission in year 2017, and outlay of this scheme here is rupees 469 crore budget. So if you are talking about some facts regarding this National Mission on Cultural Mapping, so first important point you need to remember here is National Mission on Cultural Mapping, which has been set up by Ministry of Culture in year 2017. And what is this mission all about? This mission, it is about compiling of data of artists, art forms and geolocation with inputs from central ministries, state governments and even art or culture bodies, and specially designed data captured from with technical collaboration of National E-Governance Division, or we can say like Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. And next one is the data from this art and as well as cultural academics and even from the Ministry of Culture. They will be collected and they will be entered into database after correction. So this is about this scheme. And now let us move on to next topic. Title says Martian Mystery. So this article mainly talking about whether water it is available on the surface of Mars or not. So this is about this topic, and this will be at most important from your science and technology point of view. And one homework I want to give is, so please let me know the different missions mainly done by different countries regarding this Mars. Okay, and let me know the Indian mission of Mars, name of that also in comment box. And now let us try to see the context. Does Mars have water to enable habitability? So whenever if there is a need regarding the growth of any microorganisms or any organisms, so there is a need of water. So for that we need to understand whether this Mars surface is contain the surface of water or not. So as you all know that water is essential for existence of life. But if you are talking about Earth and other planets, if there is water, then there will be the existence of life that can be seen. So in this context we need to know Mars whether the water which is present on its surface or not. So one thing which is clear that Mars has no liquid water on its surface today. So because the recent research from Washington University in St. Louis suggests that a fundamental reason Mars may be just too small to hold large amounts of water. So one thing mainly said by this Washington University here is Mars size, it is too much small to hold a large amount of water. So study also used a stable isotopes of elements of potassium to estimate the presence and distribution of this volatile elements on different planetary bodies. So actually one study which is done, and this study mainly used the isotopes of or elements of potassium, and this potassium mainly used to estimate whether there is a presence or distribution or abundance of this volatile elements on different planetary bodies. So potassium, it is a mainly moderately volatile, but here scientists mainly decided to use it as a tracer for more volatile compounds such as water. And here they mainly used this potassium isotope compositions of 20 and 20 previously confirmed Martian meteorites, and they determined that Mars has lost more potassium and other volatiles than Earth during its formation. During its formation itself, it mainly lost a lot of volatiles. So the research found that a well-defined correlation between body size and as well as potassium isotope composition, and they mainly said that there is no possibility of presence of water on the surface of Mars. Now let us move on to the next interesting topic, that is rainy September's point to monsoon shifts. So it is about September rainfall. So this article will be important from GS paper 1 under geography. So if you say context, it mainly says that for the first time since 2010, India poised to see 3 consecutive Septembers with excess rainfall. So what happened for the first time since 2010, that is 2010, we are seeing there is an increasing of rainfall in the month of September. So in this context, mainly meteorologists or some experts, they say that this is the one of signs of a change in monsoon patterns. So it is a one of important sign of changing in monsoon patterns. And because of changing in this monsoon patterns, so there is also some impact that can be seen because of global warming as well. So this is a thing which mainly said by many experts. And now let us try to see some details. If you see details, it mainly says that while September is usually the month that marks the beginning of the end for monsoon's 4-month journey over India. So what happened? Monsoons mainly enters in the month of June, right? So in the month of June, monsoons mainly enter. So June 1, it will hit the coast of Kerala. So after that, it will be progress towards the mainland India, and finally what happened? Arabian Sea branch and this Bay of Bengal Sea branch, they meet in the northern India, and finally by the September starting, there will be retreating of monsoons, that is the reversal of winds that is seen here. So what happened now in the recent years, we are seeing the retreating of this monsoons which had been delayed in the month of September. So this is the thing which mainly said here. So what happened? Meteorological department, they mainly found that the rainfall in this month of September, which is stronger than usual. And although whenever there is a high rainfall that is seen in this September, also in this year we are seeing just 96% of normal monsoon rainfall in this year. So already one important thing we need to remember here is, so rain bearing circulation which is mainly forming in the Bay of Bengal, which is unusual for this time. So here we studied about the cyclone Gulab, right? So it is one of unusual thing we are mainly seeing now in this year. So because of this, we are expecting a significant amount of rainfall in the several parts of India in the coming week. And as well as one important reason we are seeing here is because of late withdrawal, okay, because of late withdrawal of rainfall in this September month. So it is one important reason. And even next important one is global warming. Global warming is also having some link with this monsoon rainfall. It is mainly affecting the distribution of rainfall throughout the country. So this is about this topic, and there is one important data which is given, like, so a study which mainly done by the Central Water Commission, which mainly published in Theoretical and Applied Climatology 2018. So this study mainly analyzed changes in the monsoon patterns, and even this study concluded that so monthly variability of summer rainfall, it is mainly due to changing in the patterns of low pressure over Indian landmass, and even there is some fluctuation that is seen in the moisture distribution throughout the country. So even this study also said that yes, there is some changes in this monsoon pattern. So this is gist of this topic. And now let us move on to next topic, that is about eat well. So this article especially talking about bipolar disorder. So this bipolar disorder, it is one of the neurological disorder. So this article is important from your science and technology point of view. If you say context, it mainly says that nutrition can alter mood swings. Nutrition can alter mood swings, and also it will be having some benefit people, okay, benefit for the people who are suffering with this bipolar disorder. So recently one study mainly conducted in about 80 patients, and this study published in this one newspaper regarding this bipolar disorder. And in clinical trials, the study found that specific fatty acids stabilize the mood variability in the patients who are suffering from this bipolar disorder. So research mainly reduced this omega-6 fatty acids, but they increased this omega-3 fatty acids. So these omega-6 fatty acids are mainly seen in meat, eggs, some oils, etc. And they gave the intake of this omega-3 fatty acids, which mainly seen in flax seeds, fatty fishes like tuna and salmon. So they found that there is something which is effective in controlling of mood swings, especially in this bipolar disorder patients. Now let us try to see what is this bipolar disorder. So bipolar disorder, formerly called as manic depression. So it is one of mental health condition. So in this condition we can see extreme mood swings and as well as emotional highs like mania, and also emotional lows like depression that can be seen. So this is about this topic. And now let us try to see next topic. Before seeing this topic, I want to make a small announcement on this platform. If you want to clear UPSC, we came up with one excellent course, that is Current Affairs Package plus Mains Answer Writing Practice, and this course will be exclusively important for students who want to appear this 2022 UPSC. Because here we are covering 1.5 year current affairs, and we are focusing on this mains answer writing practice, and we also provide you prelims questions, practice questions on every Sunday. So in this way, this course it is designed as per demand of UPSC. So finally, I want to say one thing, that registrations for this course will be closed by October 1st week. So if you want to join this, please be hurry. Details of this course is given in description box. And if you want to talk to me, you can call to this number 8074765513. And now let us see the last topic of the day, that is about life's vital links. It is talking about life vital things. Now let us try to see context. So recently researchers came up with a new study. So this new study from Duke University, North Carolina, US. So from this Duke University, they came up with one recent study. It mainly says that about parasites which are living off this endangered primates. So what happened? What is the impact of this primates on this impact of these parasites on this endangered primates? So primates means nothing but the animals which which are like chimpanzees, some monkey species, some orangutans, etc. They will come under this primates. So if you're talking about the details, it mainly says that half of the world's primates, they are roughly numbering just 500 species, and these 500 species, they are now in the danger of extinction. So in their model, about 213 primates, they are linked in a complex web of interactions. So they involve about 763 worms, mites, and as well as other parasites, and these mainly infect them. So because of this, what happens if we are not taking enough care, then that will lead to death of that animal, that will lead to finally extinction of these primates. Okay, so this is the thing which mainly said. So here we need to focus on conservation of these primates as well. So this is just of this topic. I hope it is clear. So by this we are concluding today. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to like, share and comment my videos. And don't forget to enroll to this current affairs package. Thank you so much.